All right, everyone. This is part 2 of the Information Protection Lab. We created the policies. We published the labels out to the users. Now we're going to get the user's experience, and then we get to see some information on the administrator's experience. So, first things first, if you have not watched part 1, be sure to watch part 1, because obviously nothing we do here is going to help out. So, when it comes to information protection, a slight recap. We go to the compliance portal. We log in, as we always do. We come down here to information protection. And to give it an idea, here are we created 13 labels. 12 of them were already created here. They're kind of tenant default. We may work with those, generally speaking in the field, these are ones that you may or may not use or you may tweak. But here is the 13th, which is the one that we created, which is top secret. We went through the policy here. We applied the labels to all the users, and then we had the top secret label policy was applied only to me as an admin. We also went through and created an auto labeling policy that has finished, and guess what? It did find something. Good news. So we'll go through with that here in just a minute. But first, let's go through a user's experience with creating a document. Okay, so I'm going to do it in Office Online, and then I'll also do it on the desktop client here for you so you can get an idea. So what we're going to do here is we're going to open up. We'll do this right here. We'll obviously start inside of OneDrive. Oops. We will click on New, and we'll create a Word document. So this document here is called Document 2, and we are going to rename it to, why don't we call it something like marketing material. Okay, so we'll open it up in marketing material. And here is our document. Here is the marketing material. So again, nothing fancy here. We literally have, here is the marketing material. That is not spelled right. There we go. Now it is. Okay, so here's the marketing material. Now what do we do here? Well, you will see here that we now have this little option here that says sensitivity. And if we click on it, we'll notice that there are all of the labels that we created. We even have the top secret, highly confidential. And if you come in here, you'll notice that highly confidential, we have all employees. Confidential, we have anyone. General, we have anyone. And all employees. And you can see that, if you hover over it, here's that description that the end users see. So a lot of information involved on this one here. But again, in this instance here, what do we want to classify this particular document as? Well, it's marketing material. So that means that obviously the public should be able to see it. So, well, why don't we label it as public? As soon as we click on public, we will see that it's been labeled. But really, how do we see here? And how do we know? Well, remember, the public label does nothing. We looked at this one here. It does nothing. But if you look down on the bottom, you will see public. And if we look at sensitivity label, we'll see now there's a little checkbox next to public. So this particular document has been labeled. So that's easy. So how do we know what's been labeled? And again, that's really the whole point here is we come in and we see, all right, well, this particular document has been labeled. That's easy enough. So, let's see here. Let's create a new document. Just to stop creating Word documents here, let's create an Excel workbook. So, this is going to be the secret budget for IT. So, here in the secret budget for IT, open this up here. We may have some information in here. We're not going to put anything because I don't really care. I'm just really kind of showing you the sensitivity side of things, so it doesn't matter. But again, with the mindset here of secret budget for IT, well, this is probably something that is, I don't know, confidential, highly confidential would be probably a good idea. We don't want necessarily people outside of the organization if they were to see it. Either one of these probably makes sense. But since this is called secret budget for IT, let's mark it as highly confidential. Now, one of the things that you'll see down here is, obviously we can't put headers, footers, or watermarks inside of Excel, but you'll see down here where it says highly confidential / all employees, which is, it's just the label. There are sub-labels on there, and that's what these are. These are kind of the top level labels, and then we have sub-labels underneath of it, which is why if we come over here to labels, you will see that they have the little carets. Again, that's not really rocket science there, but to that point there is that now this particular document has that highly confidential all employees aspect on it. So at this point here, why don't we start spreading out, okay? So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to go to SharePoint. We'll do SharePoint, but vis-a-vis it's going to be Teams. So we're going to pull up this M365 project. So this is a SharePoint site here. So you can see that we are going to go to General, and this is going to take us to the document library here for SharePoint. All right, now this M365 project, which we come, and just to show you, I'll pull up Teams, because again, this was another one that we created during our Modern Office discussion here. So we have this M365 project, and you see over here we have General, and we have some stuff in here. If we go to Files, we'll see over here is the same exact thing. Now, if we can hit Open Up in SharePoint, it'll open us up inside of SharePoint. So again, it's funny because this is a kind of a OneDrive view, which is funny because it's still personal, but it's just a link basically trying to get us over to it. It's the same stuff. But if we come over here to Project, we will see here is the project. Okay, now the M365 project. All right, so let's just say some of the stuff that we deal with on here. We'll just say Word. We're going to create this Word document as, when it pops up here, I like to label my or rename my documents before I create them. So we'll call this with the project plan, and we will rename that to that. So we'll come in here and we can get more granular here. So again, this is probably in terms of, as soon as it finishes loading up the document here, I think that personally this should be an all employees confidential. Requires protection which allows all employees full permissions, and data access or data owners can track and revoke it. So we'll go ahead and put the all employees label on here. You'll see we are labeled down here. And here's a nice thing that we can do. So if we come over here to, we can look at this screen here, we'll uncheck it. We can customize this here a little bit. So there's a couple things about this one here. If we want to add a column, we can do that. But if we go to show hide columns here, there's a whole bunch of them that get opened up for us. So we will see inside of here, sensitivity. We go ahead and add that and hit OK. And you will see over here now in this column, these columns here, we will see sensitivity. This one has confidential all employees. And if I were to create another new Word document, which this one here is, we're going to call top secret. Top secret information. All right, so at that point there, well, if it's top secret information, guess what? We're going to label it as top secret. Now here's a couple of things about this one here. You'll notice that the watermark is not showing on here. That is for a reason. The reason why it is not showing is because watermarks do not show in Office Online. I will show you what this document looks like inside of the Office client here in just a second. But just want to kind of get you an idea of what we're looking at here. Here's the document. And the sensitivity has not popped up on there just yet. But we will see on here that this particular document is labeled as top secret. We do see that on there. If we just give this a refresh, well, eventually it'll show up in here. But what I'm more concerned about right now is the aspect of, let's synchronize this file. Well, actually, you know what? I think we already do have that synchronized. We do. So if we come over here to... Oh, we only have the Exchange one. So we're going to go ahead and click the sync button. Since, again, we've set this stuff up already, this is going to synchronize our OneDrive. And if I come over here, you will see that we have General. So here are the two pieces of information. So this document is the one that we created that has the top secret label on it. We're going to open that up inside of Word. As you see on here, we do see now we have the watermark, top secret, eyes only. And you can see that, hey, this is top secret. So here's the thing about this is what we're going to do is we're going to play around with a couple different scenarios. So for instance, here as I have this document is opened, what I can do here, remember what we did with the top secret was that me as the administrator, I have access to the document. But let's just say Geddy Lee has the ability to, which I got to sign in as him real quick, he has the ability to view it only. So let's get that experience here. And I'm just signing in over here on my other screen. As soon as I sign in completely, I will bring it over and show you. Okay, so I have signed in over here. So I am over here on Geddy Lee, on his side. So I'm going to sign into Teams here with him. A couple things that we need to be aware of. I'm just going to close that out for the time being so we don't get confused. So if we come over here to General, go to Files, you will see our sensitivity and everything are still here. Now these columns here, when we create these columns in SharePoint, they actually do pull over here inside of Teams because we're just pulling inside of it. So if I come up here and I click on Document, all right, so we gave, and we can still see that this is top secret. We have the ability here is Geddy Lee, remember, and just to double check, coming over here under top secret, if we edit this label, wants to show up, we did have a little bit of a hierarchy set up on here. So Geddy Lee has reviewer access, and just to reiterate, what is reviewer? View content, edit content, save, reply, forward, and allow macros. So he is unable to print. So if I were to come up under here and I were to open this, so I have the ability, and I don't have print enabled on this particular instance here, but I have the ability to do different things on here than Geddy Lee would. So Geddy Lee, if he's coming into his session, which is right here, you will see that he has the ability to, well, that's strange. Why does he have the ability to print and I don't? Did I switch those? Geddy Lee is reviewer, so he should not have access here. If he tries to print, yes, print for him is narrowed out here. That's why I'm not seeing it. That's strange. But neither here nor there. You can see print here is disabled for him, so he doesn't have the ability to do that. He also should not have the ability, as you see here. You don't see top secret for him. He can, if I wanted to, let's just say we'll lower it here and we change it. We cannot do that. He is unable to downgrade this label, so we can't change this to a public one. You know, we can't do anything, and I have to kind of change myself over here to reviewing. But if I wanted to, I am unable to download or downgrade this document. Why? Because I'm a reviewer only. I cannot edit any of the rights. I can't do anything to those particular documents. Okay, so I only have specific rights to this one here. And looking at this document, we'll move back over here. Looking at the document on here, we can see that, yes, Geddy Lee is still in here, but let's just say we have too many people inside of this document, I think, right now. But if I wanted to downgrade this, I can because I'm editing it. So I have to come over here, review, and I have to accept all of the track changes. Track changes in document. Okay, well, that's fine. I just want to go back to my sensitivity, which is right here. There we go. Jeez Louise. If I wanted to put this down here, Geddy Lee session. There we go. So we'll just say other because. You'll see now that I'm able to downgrade the document. So I did not get an error there, minus the fact that I had Geddy in there as well as myself. If multiple people are co-authoring the document there, you can't change the label while it's multiple people in it. But again, to that point there, I was able to downgrade this to personal. Okay, so again, this is non-business use. So overall aspect here is that, we've applied these sensitivity labels. That's fine. Now, we want to get a little bit more granular here. Everything we have done so far has been manual. We've had to come in here and apply that label. And again, nothing here that we have done has been, we'll say groundbreaking. But let's start using some of these other functions. So what we're going to do here is what we'll pull up over here. We'll create a new document. And we'll call this testing auto. So if you do recall, we created a client-side policy. And that client-side policy happens as somebody is typing in information. And if you recall, we did the client-side policy with an IP version 4. Just to reiterate where that was, coming back over here, we went under, I think we did it for highly confidential. Down here, I think it was for all employees. Let me just double check here. So many labels, and they're so vague, it's sometimes difficult to keep track of. But I'm pretty sure it was under highly confidential, all employees. Yeah, we recommend that the user apply the label. So this is where we created this little policy right here. So we're using credit card number here in this instance. This one is 10, so this is not the one that we created. We created maybe we did it under confidential. No, this one's still credit card, so maybe it was the top secret one that we did here. So let me double check that here. So this one does recommend it. So it was this one here, since it's the one that we created. It was coming back over here. Yes, it was IP address. Okay, so sorry about that. Looks like credit card also on there would, if it was more than 10 is what it looked like on there. So we're doing this IP address 4, and it's going to show up this information. So remember, this is as documents are in use. So we have this new document on here. My IP address is, and we have to use a legitimate one, so we'll do .14. Please use this to hack my account. So what's going to happen here is, as I'm typing that information, it goes when this save cycle happens generally, which is any time you make a major change, and it will be, as I said, in near real time. It's very close. So we used an IP address, IP version 4. Policy tip popped up. Your organization recommends that you apply it, and actually highlights the sensitive information, so you know exactly what this is. So they're saying here is that we recommend you put this label on. Now I don't have to, of course. I could save this as is and just leave it be. And we can see that we can auto apply the sensitivity, or we can show it. What's the sensitive content? Which again over here, as you see, it is a IP address. So we can remove it and get rid of it, and obviously that will get rid of the condition. Or we can just click this little button right here that says apply sensitivity. So what's going to happen is you can see it's retrieving the templates from the server. Press escape to cancel. Sometimes this does take a second or so, but it will pop on here in just a minute. But what will end up happening is that it is going and applying this label. Now we chose to do that, and we have nudged the user to do that. Okay, so we're not necessarily, oh, that's not good. We hit apply it again. No longer, I am logged in here. Here's the big piece of this puzzle, is that if you're following along here, you have to be signed in with this account, which I am. And if I were to come over here and this is some sort of error. Definitely. Let me close it out and try it again here real quick. So again, we are logged in with my account. Okay, let's apply that label. There we go. Transient error. It happens from time to time. I guess when in doubt, close it out. But again, normally this doesn't work. These are normally pretty stable here. But again, it said, hey, you've updated the sensitivity label. So you can hit OK on that. So you can see on here, top secret, eyes only. Looks good. Now, here's the big factor along this here. All right. So this is one thing that I want to show you is that when this all comes down to it is that this is persistent. Okay. So if we come over here, and I'm just going to keep this open so that testing the auto piece there. If I were to, let's just pull up Outlook just to make it easier. This is going to be the easiest way to do it. So I'm going to have to create over here. I'm going to log into my Gmail account, and I will show you what happens here. And give me just a second here while I sign in over there, while I get this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to pull up a new email. And we are going to send this to kiss28@gmail. Here is the info. Here you go. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to go to testing auto. So we're going to attach this document, this testing auto. So we want to make sure that this is a document attachment, not a OneDrive link. We come over here and we hit send. So what's going to happen is eventually over here inside of my Gmail, I'm going to get the email that's going to have that as an attachment. Which it's coming. Well, in time, I guess it will be coming here. So while we're doing that, we're waiting for that to jump in, why don't we jump over here to the sensitivity here and start looking at some of these pieces. So remember, with the DLP stuff, we were able to see classifications. I'm sorry, not the classifications, but the actions around them. So if we come over here to data classification, we'll see our good buddy, the Activity Explorer. Here's the Activity Explorer here. We will see here that on some endpoint devices, we have, these have been tested. So we can see over here, sensitivity recommended. So that was the one that we were just working on, which is an endpoint device, as you see. So remember this testing auto. So we could see that the sensitivity label was recommended, and it was recommended to be a top secret one. And you can see here's the location was in the cloud, the platform was Windows, application was Word, and here's the computer name. So we can also come in here to label changed. So remember when we downgraded it? Because was the reason. Where we can jump into is that we can see here that the label was downgraded. And remember, I downgraded it. And we have the ability to see, all right, here's the labels that were applied. We can see that the top secret one was applied manually. Come over here. We can see that this particular one was project plan, so we upgraded the label. So again, you can see all of this information that's on here, and these are all really useful tools, because what they're doing here is they're giving us the pretty much the actions that are going on inside of Office 365. I can be a little bit more specific on these, where if I go to built-in features and maybe I just want to look at the sensitivity label stuff, well, here's the labels applied, the labels recommendations, as well as the label changes, which we just have one little change on here and 4 recommendations. And these must have just been from various areas, but you can see here inside of OneDrive, inside of SharePoint, we've had it. Here's the user, here's information about it. All of it is nice. It's a pretty good way of being able to figure out what is going on. So we can get a little bit more granular here. Now we can do some of these other ones like egress activity, which we don't have any. So egress activity would show information that leaves. Egression is leaving. We can see files containing sensitive info types. Here's the things, and these are all of the events, and you can see there's quite a lot of DLPs from our DLP lecture and lab. We can see that the labels themselves, a lot of these different things have been created on here. All right. Now, looking at this, and certainly this is a way of looking at it. We can filter on based off of specific locations. If we want to kind of label it down a little bit, we can do that. We can also kind of export this, and that's sometimes if I'm looking at a lot of data on here, which in a large organization, yeah, there absolutely would be tons and tons and tons of data on here. So I kind of like exporting this, and you jump into a CSV, so it's a lot easier to see. So that's my 2 cents on that, but that is just an option there. Now we also do have another option. Now remember, we looked at Content Explorer earlier on, but with Content Explorer, I do have, we don't have any currently right now. We will start seeing some in here, but where we have trainable classifiers, sensitive information types, we will actually see sensitivity labels. So we can see where those labels are placed and where that data is across the board and where it's located inside of our tenant. So right now we only have trainable classifiers, sensitive info types, but as we have labeled stuff here today, we have to wait, big surprise, we have to wait generally a couple of hours, and we'll start seeing these in here under a location. Very helpful there. So being able to look at the information protection side of the coin here, all really very helpful. So coming back over here to the label policies, we have finally, it came through. That took forever. I'm going to pull up over here, and you will see that encrypted message warning. So remember, I put that testing auto on here. The message itself is fine, but the attachment is encrypted. So if I were to just click on this here, I can't preview it. I can't do anything with it because, why? I'm not signed into Office. So let me show you what that experience is here real quick. I'm going to sign out of Office. So I'm signed out completely. And I were to download this app or download this document here. Now I'm going to click on it, and it's going to try to open it up in Word. Now, as we see here, as we have this set currently right now to a viewing access, as you see here, this is the top secret view permission here. This is basically what nobody has any access to. So if I were to enable editing, which I can because I'm still signed in here, unfortunately, I need to be able to take this document and put it in, I'll try it on another computer, maybe easier here. So let's try this one here. So I'm going to send it to this account. So this is a completely different test account, test user here. Since I'm on the same computer, it has cached me in there, which is not a problem. So what I'll do here, I'll take this sent item and I'll forward this over to my test user that I have here in my environment. So we're going to send that out to the organization. So it's a completely different user, completely different everything. If I come in to that account, close that out. Let's go ahead and open up Outlook on the web. I may not be here immediately just yet, but it'll get here. As you see, I got a bunch of junk in here. So we'll go ahead and empty that folder for the time being. Alright, so while that is loading up, I'm just going to keep that off to the side for the time being until that email comes through, because it seems to take a little bit of time, which, not a problem. We'll get to that, and I'll show you what the experience is on a completely different computer. I'm still cached there, unfortunately, which is why I have a little bit different of experience there. So, with that being said, what we're going to do here is we're going to do the last piece while we're waiting for that mail to be delivered. So we're going to come over here to the information protection. We're going to go to the auto labeling policy that we created, and this is for IP version 6. Now this is the service side labeling. So if we come in here, we will see that the simulation that we created, because we were looking for all OneDrive, all SharePoints. And whenever this wants to load up here, I will show you that the policy did find something. We had one matching item, so let's look at the item to review. And this will load up here soon, but it'll actually show the document. So the document was just that SharePoint, or that Word document of this IPv6 test. You remember that? Well, obviously the rule picked it up because we put it in a SharePoint site. And if you click on it here, it will show us the actual site. Let's get out the details here. Maybe we can look at it a little bit more, and you can see, hey, that looks like an IP version 6 to me. So if we want here, we would look at all of the other pieces that come just to get a snapshot, how many pieces, how many items would have triggered, how many would have been in the simulation and such. And then what we can do here is we can click this to turn on the policy. So what's going to happen now is that going forward, any information that is thrown into, and if we come over here, because what will end up happening is it's going to, over time here, we will see files to be labeled. It'll be on there. So what happened here is that, I don't remember exactly where we put that one, that IP version 6 one. I think it was in this project, or maybe it was, let's go back to SharePoint sites. It was Project X we did. Go to the document library here. Remember, we have this version 6 here. Now if we add this as a column here, show add, and then we'll do sensitivity, apply, you'll see that by default it has been generated, automatically labeled as general, which is fine. That is going to be relabeled when the information protection rule comes around. So it'll come around at some point here. I can't push this along any further. It'll just come. The way it works here is that as the SharePoint indexer and everything kind of comes into play, it'll find these new documents and everything that gets placed in here in the future, and it'll be automatically labeled. And really, there's nothing we can do about that. That's the whole point of it. So we will, this one here will just kind of get triggered in time, and maybe I was trying to push it here a little bit, but we'll just have to wait for that to kind of go. Not a big deal though, as again, you get the idea of what it's supposed to do here. All right, so we have auto labeling. We covered the policies already. We've covered the labels themselves and kind of the hierarchy here. We have looked at it from the Office client. I'm still waiting for that email to get sent here, which is just taking a long time for that to happen. So we are definitely being throttled somewhere as it's jumping through the layers here. But as soon as that pops up there, we'll show it. So last piece here that I really wanted to talk about is around DLP. Now I know we've already talked about DLP, but now that we have talked about the labels themselves, now I want to show you here is a little bit of a different thing that we can do here, is that we can start using labels as a condition. So for instance, inside of Exchange here, and I'll just edit this policy, and I'll show you. So before we were using this can sensitive information types. We could have used the conditional, or excuse me, the trainable classifiers. We could have used those, sure. But now we also do have an ability here where we can come in and, so for instance, we have this high count one, let's just say. So we can lower that down, and we did it based off of, any of these. Well, what we can also do here is maybe if we want to add this, is, all right, well, if it contains any of this information, what we can do here is we can create a group. So this group up here is going to be, I'll just call it sits. And then we can do an OR conjugator down here with labels. And then we hit add, and we can do sensitivity labels. So if it contains the, I don't know, we'll say highly confidential, either of those two highly confidential ones, or top secret, let's just say. So it's saying that if it contains any of these high confidential labels, then maybe we want to do something else with it. So it contain either any of these, or any of these. So we've grouped it now together, is that now we have the ability to use these sensitivity labels as a final piece of that puzzle. So we can use those as a condition for that information when it comes in. So just another little piece that's on that there, and I think these are actually very helpful, is combining these two with sensitive information types as well as the labels, being able to define those and find what those are in there. That allows us to be able to increase our security posture here as well. So we could stop that data. So again, just because it is encrypted, yes, and as it leaves the organization, it is persistent. Those labels are persistent on those documents, sure. But what happens if, why should we even allow people to send that out? So if we're using that as a condition there, is that no, you can't even send that out, so to speak. So again, just another little, piece around there that we can kind of add into that. Same thing could be done here with, OneDrive and SharePoint as well. Same concept applies here, is that if it contains any of those, then we're going to stop them before they leave. So just another way is that this is how information protection and DLP really are symbiotic of each other and they work together. So just one last little thing that I wanted to just show you on there. So I'm still waiting for that email. So I'm going to go ahead and just pause for a minute. I'm not going to waste any more of your time here because this is the last piece that I want to show you here. Is that once this finally does get delivered, I have no idea why it's taken so long. But once it finally does get delivered here, I'll show you what the experience is, and then we can close this rest of this lab up. Okay. Wow, that took forever for it to send. Just got stuck somewhere. But not a big deal. As you see here, this is the computer that I'm on. Here's my test user account. As you see, completely different computer, completely different account. We see that this testing auto is right here. If I were to double click on it, we're going to get a sign in, which sure, I'll sign in with my account. Here is my account. This is the only account I have. So what's going to happen here is it's going to ask me to sign into their tenant, which you will see here in just a second. So here is my Azure Active Directory portal. So I'm going to try and sign in with, this is the only account I have, is this user account. Well, that person doesn't exist. If I try to use another account, again, I'm trying to sign into their portal, doesn't exist. Not going to happen. That person does not exist. The only way I could potentially get this working here is if I were, and you can see here, it needs to be added as an external user first, which needs to be a guest. Guests can come in and access things. Now, if I were to add it as a guest there, they may have different experience based off of the label and such. There's lots of different variables there with it. But again, the idea here is that this is a persistent. This document here exists only on the other computer. And as you say right here, you are not signed in, so you cannot do that. So just to show you here that it is persistent no matter where it goes. We will see these things here. And I'll go ahead and disconnect from mine here. But, we will see these types of things as, again, just another layer of security on top of our already, we'll say, well-defined stack that we have used so far. So that is it for this particular lecture here. We're going to jump over to retention will be the last piece that we talk about here for the lab. Then we're going to do two more little pieces there. We have two more after that. So the retention one is going to be a two-parter, but it'll be significantly less because we're just going to worry about the labels there. But it's going to be a very simple short part two there because there's not a whole lot we can do with labels. When it comes down to it, we just assign them or not. That's really about it. So with that being said, we are done here on this one, and we'll see you over on the next.